Okay, right. So, welcome everyone. Welcome here. Welcome in Zoom. So, let's start the second day of Buddhism for daily life. Day three. Right. Thank you. So, I hope your week was great. You had a great week and everything is fine. We were trying to answer two questions all throughout this session. And I'll be keep repeating these questions until you are sick of these two questions. The first question is, why did you come here today? Now you were on Zoom last week and you decided to come here in person. Yeah. And you all are on Zoom. Why are you here? I'll keep asking that. It's a rhetorical question at the moment, but keep asking yourself. The second part is, why are you in existence? What is the purpose? What is the reason that you live? We are trying to answer that. And why we are trying to answer that is because if we know the answer to that, if we know the purpose, maybe we can do much more on that purpose rather than doing other things. Right? So we select what is the most needed and then we work on that, which makes sense, right? And so out of what we have been discussing, we got to know that there's a biological need of survival. Any animal, any plant, any living organism, it has a biological need of survival, right? Even if you take, I'll mute this. Even if you take a microorganism, and when you look at that microorganism through a magnifying glass or a microscope, you put some acid into the culture, he would try to wander away from that. You put something which he can eat, he would go towards that. And we don't know if microorganisms can think because they are single cellular, they are just one cell. But still they have this biological need of surviving. If we look at the more complex organism around us, the trees, the geese, the beavers, they are so good at their survival. Last summer, I'll tell you a story because I see all the stories related to the lake here from upstairs out of my window. Last summer, they were cutting down a lot of trees. And we were worried, why are the beavers cutting down so many trees? But somehow, before the summer hit, they knew that this would be the lowest rainfall in Ontario after 10 years. They knew. Right? And they have the survival need. So they built a huge dam on the other side of the lake with all that trees that they cut down during the summer. So they have the survival need. And there's the unconscious biological survival need. And we have a conscious, sentient survival need. Now let's try to figure out what that is. So we were discussing about that as well. We figured out that any human being would like to avoid the pain. That's a conscious need. We would not want to get into uncomfortable, painful situations. We would want to get out of it. We would like to acquire happiness, right? We would like to acquire happiness, or we would like to acquire things which gives us happiness. Is that correct? We would like to acquire happiness, or we would like to acquire things or means of happiness. And then the next part is that how do we decide what is good and what is bad? That's the next question I'm going to ask today. Now, we want to avoid a part of our life and we want to embrace another part of our life. And who decides? Who says that this is the part that we should be avoiding, which is painful, sad, and this is the part I should be embracing, which is happy, which is good, which is comfortable. Now let's get deeper into that. Maybe not today, but on another day. I will take a discourse, a sutra, which is called a sutra. I will explain what a sutra is from the Buddhist Pali canon. It's called the Nibbedika Sutra. I will take that and I will tell you who decides what is comfort, what is discomfort, what is good, what is bad, what is sad, and what is happy. But before we go there, I want to focus on a small thing. That's the bipolarity in our mind. Bipolarity. Have you heard of the bipolar disorder? right? We have all sorts of mental disorders, and bipolar is one of the main psychological clinical disorders. But if I say all of us are bipolar, it's very simple. Take today, take this week. You were happy during few days of the week until Thursday now, and then you were not so happy in certain days. Take the last month, take the last year. There were downs and there were ups. However, probably you are not clinically bipolar because it was in a range. It didn't go beyond a certain point, so you are called officially depressed, and it didn't cross that line where you are officially manic or too elated, euphoric, and then people could call you manic. So you probably stayed within the range, in that limit, so you were not clinically bipolar per se. But the nature of our mind is to be bipolar. It's either happy or it's sad. Happy, sad, happy, sad. It's very seldom that we are neutral. We might feel that we are neutral, but it's just we don't notice the slight up or the down. It's too small to notice. So we call it neutral. But most of the time we are either happy or we are sad. Euphoric, elated, happy, or sad, miserable, depressed. Those are the two natures of our mind. And then also what else we did was we tried to dissect what we are talking about, the happiness, into three parts. So there was the first one, the happiness, the gross happiness. And then there was another part which came out. We called it the satisfaction or content, being content. Or we can even call it gratification or being peaceful, which is slightly different to that gross happiness. So we have the happiness, and for the simplicity, let me call it satisfaction for today's discussion. But I hope you understand what I mean by that, because these words are definitions that we can agree on, right? So let's call the gross happiness one and the satisfaction the two. And then I also spoke about a third part called the blissfulness. I did not describe or try to define what blissfulness is, so let's keep it for a different day. But if we focus on those two, the happiness and the satisfaction, and if we put that under a microscope, the first part, the happiness, we saw in order to be happy, we need to use the five senses. We need our eye, ears, nose, tongue, and the bodily sensations, right? Those five things gives us happiness, right? We could say that there's a sixth element called the mind. But if you closely look at again, the mind comprises of all the memories, all the interactions with those other five senses. Is that correct? Eye, ear, what we see from our eye. We look at images. We hear sounds from our ear. We have aromas from our nose. We have tastes from our tongue, and we have other bodily somatosensory sensations on our body. Whatever is in your mind are comprised, these are the building blocks, and the mind, the memories, emotions are built on these. I'm not saying these are the only things in mind. If you meditate, you will find that there are other things which are not related to our five senses, and some of you might have found it, some of you might not have found it, but don't worry. Bulk of what we feel right now are related to the five senses. And then again, another way to look at it, what causes happiness are the 4 P's. I would keep on telling about these 4 P's again. Like in marketing, you have 3 P's, price, product, and place, right? It's a marketing terminology. So in this Buddhism for daily life, the terminology is 4 P's: people, places, pastimes, and possessions. Our entire life can be put under those 4 things. We interact with people, we go to places, you came here, place. You have pastimes, meditation is a pastime, offering flowers to Buddha, gardening, yoga, whatever you do, pastimes. And then you have your possessions, your phone, vehicle, mug, plate, anything, right? So we have this 4 P's, and that is how we interact. And these are the fundamentals for you to become happy, the 4 P's. Either it's the 5 senses, and the mind, or it's the four P's. They're the same thing. I'm just taking different paths. They're the same thing. I'm talking about the same thing, but I'm looking at different aspects of it. And then we also we were trying to look at certain characteristics of happiness, right? I don't know if you could remember, but I said that these happinesses, the happiness, the satisfaction, they are based on resources, time, money, and energy. We'll look at it later. And then they are always dependent on external factors. There's no way that we can come up with a happiness right now without anything, without the five senses or the memories from these five senses, or without the four P's. We do not probably know a way to become happy right now without out of a void, right? And we'll look into the characteristics later, but I want to bring another question, a new question for you today. We also discovered that our lives are about being happy, satisfied, right? That's sort of the purpose of our living, sort of, because we haven't fully discovered what's our purpose. We might think we have discovered it, but there's still a lot more to discover about the purpose of our life. But we sort of concluded that in order to live, at least in order to live, we need to be happy, we need to be satisfied. So the question I ask you now is, are you 100% satisfied and are you 100% happy right now? What do you think? Like 100%. There's no...
Sorry. Yeah. I think it's difficult to quantify.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Quite closer to...
Right. Good comment.
100% maybe.
Good comment. It's harder to quantify. So let's have a benchmark, right? Take the day that you were the most happy, the happiest in your life. And based on that benchmark, what percentage is your happiness right now? Is it the equivalent to that day that you were the most happy today? Or is it a little above that? Or is it a little beyond that? Equal. So
it's just these days, it's just become what it is.
Like a plateau.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe I could get excited if something happens.
Right. Right. How about you?
Oh, well, yeah, I couldn't be more happy because then today would be my most happy day.
Right. Right.
But if I think about, I'm probably at about 70%.
70%.
I've had some difficulty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you raise your hands who think that they are below 100% today of happiness? Below 100%. Anyone here who's above 100%? Well, if you are above 100%, that benchmark of you being most happy is not the 100%. Right? So there's a linguistic problem there. You can be the most happy, maybe it's today. Right?
Maybe it's manic.
Maybe it's?
Maybe it's manic.
It's
manic.
a manic, right, yeah. So anyway, that again, ask this question. I'm asking you, but I would not know the true answer. You know the true answer. Ask yourself, am I 100% satisfied today? Am I the ultimate satisfied right now at 7:46 p.m. on a May 4th, 2023? Is this my moment of 100% happiness? But if you are not, I'll tell you how you would know that you're 100% satisfied. Because if you're 100% satisfied, you can immediately rest in peace. If we are not satisfied, which means that we still need to do something in order to be that amount of satisfied. We need to do something. There's some task which is pending. Because doing that task makes us more satisfied. Right? So if you are 100% satisfied now, you can truly rest in peace right now. Right? But again, the other part is that although we want to be happy, we are always inhibited. We cannot be 100% satisfied because there are certain inhibitions that we cannot be happy. I'll tell you what are these. So these things, I'm taking this from the Pali Canon. Now, Pali Canon is what Pali is a language like Hebrew, which is a dead language now. It used to be there 2500 years ago in India, and now only the monks speak Pali, only the monks understand Pali. Pali does not have a font per se, it can be written in any language. And it's the closest is it's like Hebrew, where the Old Testament was written. Only the Israelites speak Hebrew now, but it's pretty much a dead language. So Pali Canon is the compilation of what Buddha has said during his lifetime over a course of 45 years. Compared to Jesus, he was pretty lucky. He had 45 years to teach his disciples, since the age of 35 until he passed away at the age of 80. And during this period, he said different things to his disciples. To non-disciples, he had arguments, conversations, sermons, and he even came up with a code of conduct for the disciples. So the Pali Canon consists of 3 baskets. The first basket is the code of conduct. The second basket is the discussions which happened where his disciple Ananda, now my name is also Ananda, his closest disciple was also Ananda. He remembered them and then he compiled into the second basket. And there's a third basket which is more of an academic sort of way of looking at Buddhism, which is called Abhidharma. I don't need of remembering these names, but 3 baskets in the Pali Canon. And I'm going to use one sutra. Now, sutra means a conversation which happened with another person, and the name of this sutra is called the Bhaya Sutra. Bhaya. We were just meditating, and I said something like Abhya Pacho Homi. I don't know if you could remember, but that means Bhaya, or Bhaya literally means fear, right? Fear or insecurity. So the Bhaya Sutra tells about 3 ways, or rather 4 ways, why we are inhibited, where we cannot have our 100% satisfaction or happiness. And the first is that everyone is afraid of fear of punishment. Now there might be things that we want to do, but most of the good things that we can do are prohibited by law. Right? At least I find Canada a better liberal country where more things are not prohibited by law. But still, if you go back to your teen age, right? Go back to your school age where you were a kid. Most of the things that you wanted to do, the teacher, the parents would say, no, it's prohibited. And the law is never in your favor. Law does not want you to be the 100% happy person. It does not want to do that, because being 100% happy has its own issues. Well, let's get into that as well. I lived in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which has very strict laws. Believe me, they have very strict laws. And most of the fun things, you could not do it there. It's prohibited by law, literally prohibited by law. So fear of punishment keeps you away from being 100% happy most of the time. Assume that it's fine. I'm in a good country where the laws are supportive. I can do whatever I want in my life to become 100% happy. Still, there's another thing which inhibits you from doing that. That's the fear of sin, your own guilt, or your the sin which is given to you by whatever the religion that you follow. We have 10 commandments. We have five precepts in Buddhism where people practice. If you go to a religion like Islam, there's halal and haram. Halal means things which are okay to do, which are accepted. Haram means things that you are prohibited. You take any religion, every religion has a set of rules where you are not supposed to do that. If you do these things, you are a sinner, right? And again, if you look at the religions, I was thinking as a young child, that's probably a reason that I did not associate myself with a religion. Religion and being happy doesn't go together usually, right? The religions want you to not do certain things which should ideally make you happy. Some people can go by these virtues and then opt to be happy, but most of the time as a young kid, again, go back to that stage of your life where you are a rebellious 20-year-old, 25-year-old. Most of the things that you want to do in life, which ideally which would make you happy, is a sin or it's prohibited by the law. But then there's a third reason why you cannot be 100% happy. That is because you have your own fear of self-criticism, your guilt. You don't go by a commandment, you don't go by the law, but still you have your own guilty conscience, right? And because of that, you would not do things that you would have ideally done to become happy, right? And then the fourth part is the biggest part, your fear of being accused by the others, by the society, by others mainly. So in one way you have your own guilt, on the other hand you have others, your parents, your peers, your teachers telling you that what you're doing is wrong and you shouldn't be doing that. Although you might think it's a very simple thing, but if you again reflect on your life, many things that you did and did not do were due to peer pressure, right? Pressure from the society, the societal pressure. You go to countries like India, Sri Lanka, the parents ask you to marry to a particular person. You are not even allowed to take that choice on your own. Even if you are most happy going out with one person, you are prohibited from doing that. At least in the Western society, it's a little less, but still there's peer pressure. As a grown-up, there are A, B, C, D things that you should comply with so that you're called a normal person. Otherwise, you'll be called a weirdo, right? But there are weirdos in the society. There are bohemian lifestyles, there are hippies, there are people who are not in the same lifestyle. In fact, back in my surfing days, I've associated a lot of hippies. They are called weirdos. They are weird, right? So they do not fit in the same category as most people would do. So 4 things. Afraid of punishment, we cannot be happy. Afraid of sin, can't be happy. Afraid of guilt, afraid of what others would say. 4 things would refrain you from becoming 100% happy, even if you want to. So you see that our fundamental reason for life is to become happy. But then there are few things which prohibits from us being 100% happy and satisfied. But time to time there are people who don't care these things and they are okay. They seem to be happy. I'll tell you some people whom I have seen personally who are very happy. The drug addicts, when they are high, not when they are low, but when they are high, they seem to be very happy only during that period, right? I've seen a lot of them taking substances, heavy substances, and for that brief moment they are elated. So if you ask them, are you 100% satisfied? They would say, yes, I am. I am on top of the moon right now. I'm cloud, I'm very happy and satisfied right now. But then when the drug wears off, they become miserable again. They become even more miserable than a normal being. But then again, in order to be 100% satisfied, would you want to become an addict? Most likely no. There's a second set of people who are very happy. I have seen a lot of them too. I said bipolar disorder. Bipolar has 2 sides, the depression part and the manic part. I have seen a lot of people in the manic phase, they are elated. They're so happy, they're so happy they start singing to themselves. Right? Everything makes them happy. But then there's a point which it becomes too neurotic and they lose it. But there's a period where they are very happy, they are elated, right? They laugh, they are very happy. But the question is, would you want to go crazy like that to become 100% satisfied? Again, no. There's another set of beings who are happy, most likely in their 100%. In fact, you have been like that. They are the children, like not the above 5-year-old children, below 5-year-old children. They are very happy. They are almost closer to 100% happiness. You only need a very few things, or almost don't need anything to make them happy. And again, if you look at it, we recently had an event. We invited the mayor, a few guests and all. And then the kids were supposed to sing in front of the audience. And there were 2 kids who were below 5. They did not care about anyone who's watching, anything happening around them. They were in their own world. They were very happy. Their parents were worried. Why is this kid not singing? They were trying to take off their clothes in front of the audience, right? It made them happy. I could see how happy they were, right? But the parents were worried, the organizers were worried, they were happy. And even if we want to become kids, we cannot become kids anymore because our minds are too spoiled now. We cannot go back to that phase again. It's difficult. So again, we would like to become 100% happy, but it seems like it cannot be because we cannot be a drug addict, we can't be a crazy person, or we can't be a child. So, we want to be happy, but it's not possible. Let's talk of another kind who can be happy 100%. The people who are liberated, people who are enlightened, right? But then again, let's not try to imagine what a liberated and an enlightened being is like. This is about you. This discussion is about you, not about anyone else. So right now what we can see is we would ideally want to become 100% happy, but we have certain inhibitions, and because of that we cannot become that happy. But what if you opt to live a life with a certain code, a moral code? You adopt a principle, a set of principles, and then you try to live by that moral code. Can you be happy 100% that way? Because you're not refraining now, you're adopting that moral code and then you're living by it, practicing virtues. Can we be happy that way? Now again, I have seen a lot of people who want to adopt a set of rules and then live their life. Even monks sometimes, they would want to go by this set of rules. But if you get closer to them and then try to see what's really inside their mind, they have a pressure in their mind. They would ideally want to do certain things, but their moral code prohibits from them doing those things. So if I look at them and see if they are really satisfied, they are not fully satisfied. They have certain needs that they would really want to fulfill, but they also have this moral code where they do not want to deviate from. But there could be some people who go by a virtue and they're happy with it. But then there's a second part. I think we discussed it the other day also. When you start following a virtue, you start judging people. Become a vegetarian. Every guy who's a non-vegetarian, you start feeling he's inferior to you and you're superior. Start practicing yoga every day in the morning. Every guy who does not practice yoga might look like an inferior guy to you. So the moment you start adopting a virtue, you could be a little judgmental as well. Any practice, cut down on your sugar, do intermittent fasting, right? Anything in this world. So that part is there. And then some people even try to become minimalistic. They try to become minimalistic and be happy. I have seen people who want to be minimalistic, but then again I question them, are you minimal because are you really trying to be happy, or is it because you cannot gotten certain things and then you have given up on your pursuit of happiness? Is it midlife crisis? Is that why you are trying to be minimalistic? It's an open question. For some it might be that, some it might not be true. But then I see people. But another thing which could bring us to 100% happiness is being benevolent, being kind. I think we discussed, someone said that being benevolent makes you closer to 100% happy. Because being benevolent is not a bad thing in any society. Any society accepts it as a good thing. Now you trying to do something which is unlawful, society would tell that is wrong and they would prohibit you from doing that. But being benevolent, no one is against it. Sometimes I find that there's this couple I know, the husband is very benevolent, wife doesn't like it because he sometimes doesn't give enough to the wife and he's too benevolent. So the wife says, well, you're fine, being benevolent is a good thing, but why don't you spend a little bit on me as well and be benevolent? So, but usually, apart from very few cases like that, everyone accepts being benevolent is nice. Being altruistic, no one says it's a bad thing. being altruistic is good in any society, in any culture. So in fact, again, if you look at all the religions, every religion has a component asking you to become benevolent. In Buddhism, it's called dana. Dana literally means you give. In Christianity, we have alms. This hand does not know what this hand gave. In Islam, we have, it's called zakat, where you give. So giving, being benevolent, being altruistic is good in any culture. So it's uninhibited. You can become altruistic, and if you're happy doing that, you can be really happy, very close to 100%. But then we can't do that all the time, because even if we want to be altruistic, there are certain parts of your mind and body says, what if I keep it for myself? There's that little greed which prohibits you. It's very seldom that you can completely give something without having that little bit of greed, right? It's very hard. So what I'm trying to say is that now we are trying to become 100% happy, 100% satisfied. But in order to do that, there are so many obstacles, right? So we are trying to figure out a way to become 100% happy and satisfied, right? So two terms, happiness and being satisfied, gratified, two things now, right? Happiness is the more gross form, the more happy dopamine form, but being satisfied is the more self-actualizing form. Being benevolent is happy, but in order to be benevolent, you might need money, energy, time, again restricted by certain resources, right? And so selfless satisfaction is always greater than the selfish satisfaction. That is a given. There's another way to feel 100% happy. That's meditation, right? I don't know to the extent that you have meditated. But again, when you meditate for some time and when you figure out certain things in your mind, you go to a state of mind where you are very euphoric. In fact, it's very different to the gross happiness that, or the dopamine related happiness we have. It's a state of being very peaceful, right? Unfortunately, I don't have it right now. I had it a few days ago, a few months ago, but I don't have it right now. If I want to, I can get it again, but I cannot keep it forever. When I'm in that state, it's there, and when you are out of that state, it's gone, right? But it's definitely better than all the other forms of happiness that I mentioned. It's better. Later on, when I teach you the more technical terms of Buddhism, I'll teach you something called the mental formations. The Pali word for that is called sankhara. Sankhara. Don't worry about the word. It says there are three types of mental formations: apunya, punya, and anenja, which means there are mental formations which are towards being negative or doing ill will. I want to kill this person, I want to steal from this person, I want to be rude to this person. They are the negative type of formations. And then there are the positive types of formations. I want to give to this person, I want to help this person, I'm happy when that person is happy. So that's a positive form. And then there's a third form. When you meditate, you're not in that normal world that we call the world. We are in a different state of, we are in a different world, and that world can be very blissful. It's not gross happiness, but a very peaceful happiness. But still, it's not a permanent thing. But anyway, three things that we can do with our mind. And now let's get to the characteristics of our mind, or the happiness that we have been discussing. And I wanted to go to the next topic today, but I think it's better that we try to establish the characteristics and the nature of happiness here. Again, up to this point, I have not been discussing a lot of Buddhism. This is your experience from your life, right? Just see if you really agree to the characteristics that I show. You might not, but I'm just pointing out things from your life. I would ideally like to have a personal conversation for hours so that we can have a greater chat and build on that. But unfortunately, I have been given a task to do it within 8 weeks and give you certain fundamentals of Buddhism and then learn Buddhism. But don't worry, we'll do that chat one day. So the first characteristic of happiness is that it's always dependent on external factors. Is that correct? Our happiness, the gross happiness, is always dependent on the five senses. There's no way that we can become happy without listening to nice music, without listening to meditation music, meditative therapeutic music, without looking at nice people, nice things, nice images, a movie. There's no way that we can indulge ourselves without nice aromas and nice tastes. We need that to become happy in the gross sense. And we need nice comforts in our body to become happy. So it seems that it's always dependent on external things, external means, external resources. And like I said earlier, that it's based on time, money, or energy. So these resources are always, all these three resources are not met for any person unless you are a very lucky person. When you are a young child, above 5 years now, teen, you don't have the money, but you have the time and the energy. When you are an adult, when you are a working adult, what you don't have is the time. You have money and energy, but no time. And when you grow old, when you retired, you have the time, you have the money, but you don't have the energy. Today, a gentleman walked in. He was one of the gentlemen who has helped to build this temple in the beginning. But now he walks with his oxygen. It's very hard for him to move about. Few steps, and then he starts, his lung function is low. So, you have everything, but you don't have the energy towards the end of your life. So, unless you are very lucky, it's very difficult to have all these three resources at one go: time, money, and energy. And the next thing is, I pointed out that the cost of happiness is increasing since our childhood. Children can be happy with under $1, but when you grow old, as you grow old, you need $5, you need $100, you need $200. Now at this age, when you are more grown up, you need many dollars to go to the CN Tower and go on to that rotating panoramic restaurant and look at the lake and then have a dinner. That's what would make you happy. You go to Gordon Ramsay or a Michelin star hotel. That's what make you happy. You can't be satisfied with something small like back in the day, right? So the happiness, the cost of happiness is ever increasing. Even if you get this happiness, that is going to fade away. It's not a continuous thing. I showed you the bell curve. It's like a ripple. There's a beginning, a peak, and then there's a off peak, a valley. The bell curve. Bell curve is a phenomena that we find everywhere in the world. Take the intensity of light on a day. Dawn and dusk, it's low. It's peaked at noon or around noon, and then night it's gone. So it follows this bell curve. Anything in our life, our energy from our birth to death goes up, fades away. So this happiness is also under the bell curve. It has the effect of fading away. No matter how much we try to capture it, it fades away. And then the other part is that in order to become happy the next time, we need to introduce new things. We discussed it. Change is the exciting part. Change is exciting, but change is also tiring. Now, I'll tell you my personal experience about how change is exciting and why it's tiring at the same time. When I was a young boy, I used to go out with a lot of girls, right? And every time I go to find a new relationship, it made me very happy. That infatuation part is very happy. But then in order to go from one relationship to the other, you have to break someone's heart, right? And then when you do that, it's fine. You still find another one and you keep moving. But I started feeling a sense of being tired in that. You go from one to the other. It makes you happy, but tired in the long run. So then I did not know what to do. I thought maybe getting married to one person will take that tired feeling of tired off. It didn't work as well. I had to get divorced, right? But what I'm trying to say is, I tried so many paths in my life to become happy. Most of the sports, go out to the nature, wildlife photography, surfing, rowing, this, that, I tried. So every time you start a new hobby, it's very happy. But over a period of time, it fades away, and then you need something else. You become sort of desensitized to the happiness. I'll tell you another example. Imagine the day that you bought your first car. Maybe it was a new car, a brand new, maybe it was an used car. Most likely your first car is going to be not a brand new car. I remember my first car, it was a Ford. I loved it. I was washing it, the first day. 1 week down the line, I wasn't taking care of it that often, that frequently. 6 months down the line, I just did not care about the car, right? And that happens to your newly bought phone, newly bought laptop, newly bought wheelchair, right? You take care of that in the beginning, but then over the time, over a period of time, you sort of gets desensitized. Your returns of happiness are diminishing returns to your happiness, right? And in fact, there's this nice study which are done with rats. I take rat experiments all the time. It's called the Coolidge effect. Now, Coolidge effect means that it has a lot of criticism as well. So what happens is that there's a male rat and a few female rats, right? So the female rats are in heat, and the male rat is put into a container where he can do his business with the female rats. Over a period of time, he does that, and then he gets tired. It reminds me of my younger self. Right? He gets tired and he doesn't want to copulate with the female rat anymore. He's bored. But the moment you introduce a new female rat who's in heat, he's excited again. He started getting back to his business, but only for a certain period of time, and then he's bored again. So this effect is called the Coolidge effect. It's observed in common rat. But then again, if you look into people, you find that effect. So back in the day, I worked for a multinational company handling a major brand. In brand management, you have this thing called innovation and renovation. You continuously renovate and innovate the brand. If you keep the brand static, the demand is going to die down. So you continuously need to, make something which is exciting. Nothing in this world can remain static and have a demand. In order for that demand to be sustainable, you need to invent something. You change the color, you put a new brand ambassador. Most successful brand ambassador, you keep it for him for 10 years, he's going to lose his value. You need to introduce a new brand ambassador, right? So Coolidge effect. And then the biggest part is that all these pleasures, they come as a package. Now I'll tell you another story, which is a Zen story. Most of the time, we are happy when we own things, not when we use things. We like to own things rather than using things. Kids, they don't have that need. They can use things and become happy. Monks can use things and become happy. Now, as a monk, I do not have a car, but there are so many cars that takes me around of people who come here. And I think that car is my car and I can use it. But most of the time, people cannot be happy unless they own that, right? So you need to have a sense of ownership over that. Most of the things that you own are not really owned by you. They are owned by the mortgage companies or the banks, right? Let's say that even you own it. So what happened to this nun was, one day she was given a nice new robe, like a very expensive robe. And then she wasn't even wearing that. She was very happy simply by owning that robe. But she wanted to protect it. She couldn't protect it because there were rats in her monastery. So there were rats, right? Maybe this is Thailand, maybe this is Japan, but there were rats. So she wanted to protect her valuable possession from the rats. What she did was, she told one of her disciples, "Can you bring me a little cat?" So that the cat would protect my robe from the rats, right? So she did that. But then while she was raising the cat, she felt that she had to bring milk every day. What if I bring a cow here so that I can give the cat milk every day? So then she bought a cow, and now the cow is there. She has the milk and she feeds the cat. The cat is taking care of the robe. But then a few days later, she thought that, cow is nice, but I have to cut grass and feed him every day. Why don't I bring a woman so she could stay with me and then take care of the cow? So she brought a woman. because it's not nice for a nun to have entertain a man inside the monastery usually. So now the woman is there, but few months later this woman is complaining, I'm lonely. So the nun thought, why don't I bring a man and let this couple take care of each other. So she bought a man. So one thing led to the other. One day nun was trying to meditate in the morning and this couple is fighting. They're having a major argument. So that moment the nun thought, what have I done? I had a robe, and in order to protect that robe from rats, I bought a cat. In order to provide for that cat, I bought a cow. To take care of the cow, I bought a woman. To take care of the woman, I bought a man. And now it defeats my original purpose of trying to be peaceful and try to meditate in my monastery. So why I said that was, a lot of things that we try to acquire to become happy has the same baggage. It has both sides. Take a child, take a dog. Don't take a child, take a dog or a pet. You buy a pet, but then there's so many things that you need to be taking care of. I had a pet, a Doberman. He was very sick at one point. I had to go to the hospital daily to get his saline dose. And it was way more expensive than what I have spent on my health back in the day. Way more expensive, right? Child is an upgraded version of that. You bring a child because it makes you so happy, but all the fees up to the college fund, right? It's expensive. But I'm not saying that you should not, again, don't take it in a nihilistic manner. I'm not advocating against being fun or being owning things, or against children for that matter, right? But what I'm saying is that when we want to eat bread, we usually don't eat bread, we buy a bakery. Is that correct? Because when we acquire things, at least nowadays things are a little better. We don't have to buy the car. We can rent the car, which is a better alternative than owning a car, right? And however, a lot of people, they are not happy simply using it. They are happy owning it. And while trying to do that, it comes with a lot of negative aspects, which you cannot say no to it. And that's another aspect of our happiness. And then there's another part that we are trying to be content with the happiness. But we can't truly be content with happiness. We take these things, we take the best aroma, we take the best perfume, smell it and go to sleep. The following day we wake up and we don't have that happiness. We want to smell it again. You keep smelling it for few days, few weeks, few months, and then you're over it. You want the next perfume. You eat the most delicious food in the world. It makes you very happy. You take a nap, wake up, that happiness is gone. In order to be happy, you need to top it up. So there's sort of a topping up you need to do every time. It's like a drug addict. See, the drug addict does the same thing. He's high and then it wears off and then he needs to top it up. It's the same thing for us also, although we are not called addicts, right? We are not, again, clinically called addicts. We are addicted. We need to top up that sensory inputs. If not, we cannot be happy. So there's this word fulfillment. Fulfillment. Now this is full. We are trying to fill the bucket, but it never gets full. Is that correct? It's like we have 5 tanks. We are trying to fill these tanks every day. We fill them during the day, but when we sleep in the morning, the water has seeped out. Water has drained and they are empty. So we need to fill them again. And these 5 tanks are the eye, ear, nose, tongue and touch. Right? We fill our eye with the most beautiful image that we can find in the world. We look at it, we are very happy, we are very ecstatic. We go to sleep and then we wake up the following day, it's gone. We need to look at it again in order to become happy. Look at the sunset here, it's beautiful. But sleep today and then you will forget and you will want to come back here again to watch the sunset. I have watched sunset from many beautiful places in the Himalayan range, in oceans, beautiful sunsets. But I need to top it up. So that's the nature of happiness. We cannot fulfill, although we want to fulfill and be 100% satisfied at a given point of time, it's not possible. It drains out. So now the next part is that we can be momentarily happy, but then we can be very anxious. Now this sunset is so beautiful, but in 10 minutes it's going to go away. So I can be anxious, I can be afraid about losing my happiness, the momentary happiness. Again, if you're mindful, go to the point where you were most happy. Maybe you were really enjoying that happiness, you did not have a time to think about it. But if you think about that happiness when you're most happy, you might think, well, I'm really happy right now, but this could wear off and I would not have this happiness anymore. So you can be anxious about the same thing, right? And the biggest part I did not mention, suppose that you are trying to be happy, and if someone comes in between you and the happiness, you're going to be very mad, you're going to be very angry, right? Just apply it to your daily life, right? You want to take a peaceful nap, and then your kid bangs the door in the morning and says, Mom, Dad, I need to do this thing. So and you get instantly mad. Of course, because they are our loved ones, we are not going to be that mad. But put it into a subordinate or a colleague in our office space. We want to be happy, and they come and say, our boss comes and say, well, you cannot take leave on this day. You are prohibited from taking leave. Although it's very not nice to say, he gives us a task where we have to work on it. So we can't be happy. And then again, if you look at all the times that you have been happy, have you noticed that there were certain places you were pleasantly surprised and you were very happy, like a surprised birthday? Can you be surprised if you knew the plan? Most of the happinesses which made you mostly happy were surprises. It was a surprise. So there's a problem with trying to acquire happiness, that the true and better happiness is always unplannable. So you can plan and get it. If you plan, it's not a surprise anymore. Now, for example, a surprise birthday, a surprise gift from your loved one would have made you very happy. But if you knew that he's going to do that, or if you have planned it yourself, you cannot be happy. So the real happiness cannot be planned. It's always a surprise. It's unplanned. So I'm trying to say, don't take it the wrong way. I'm trying to show certain negative aspects of trying to be satisfied and happiness, right? It doesn't now, me saying this is not that there's nothing called real happiness in this world. Of course there is happiness, but it has these characteristics, and we should figure out a way to avoid these negative aspects and try to be internally 100% happy. That's our task here. But seems that it's difficult to do. And again, assume that you are blessed with all the resources. Like you have a magic wish where everything you want is given to you, right? Imagine that the most famous sport in Canada is hockey, ice hockey, right? You are given a set of blades and a stick which are magical. Every time you play them, you are guaranteed a goal, right? Imagine that you get a golf club, which is a magical golf club. Every time you hit, it's a, what you call it? It goes in the hole. I don't know what it's called, putting, whatever. So you're there. Just one shot, you're there, because it's a magical golf club. The sport we play in Sri Lanka is called cricket. I don't know if you have heard it. Cricket with a bat. If you are given a magic bat, every time you play, it's 6 runs. 6 runs is the highest run you can achieve in one single ball. Or you are given a magic pair of boots to play soccer. Every time you hit, it's a goal. If you own that magic soccer boot or that golf club, can you be happy? Would that game become happy? Or would you rather run out of being happy? What do you think?
You'd be like the ball. You'd get saturated and unsatisfied.
Unsatisfied, right?
Yeah.
I will in fact show you a few people that I have seen in my day. I'll share it on the screen. 4 people. I'll share it on Zoom as well. Hang on for a minute. Where's my Zoom? Okay, here you go. Screen 2. Okay, so you see these people, right? I don't know if you can recognize them. The first person is Avicii. He was a Swedish DJ. He was very famous, but then he thought, I'm going to end my life. He was young, at the prime of his youth. He wanted to end his life. The next guy, Anthony Bourdain, yeah, famous chef, very famous chef, writer, very interesting guy. He has a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, very fit guy. He hung himself. Other two are still there. That's Bill Gates and Elon Musk. What I wanted to say is that some people, especially celebrities, they reach a point where they have the energy, they have probably not the time, but they have the money. You know, I have seen a video of Michael Jackson, MJ, going to a shop and saying, I want this, I want this. He doesn't even ask the price because he has so much money, right? He can buy a lot of things. But once you start getting, having money is difficult, but it's a possible thing. But having respect and love, it's even more difficult. Like Anthony, all the celebrities, they have love from people. Of course, they have hate also, but they have a lot of love from people, recognition from people. Now, that's even hard to get in the world. Politicians don't get it all the time, but the celebrities, people love them. Even with that love, even with that money, they are not satisfied with their lives, right? They want to end. But we find these two other gentlemen, Gates and Elon Musk, for example, they seem to be not committing suicide in the near future because they have a goal which is bigger than their life. Elon Musk wants to go to Mars and put a colony there, which is a great idea, but he can't do it in probably in his full lifetime, and that keeps him going on. If he has run out of that hope that doing this will make me happy, he's going to kill himself too. He's going to exhaust his life too. So we have this nature in our life, and happiness, hope, satisfaction are the things that we discussed. All these characteristics are there, and end of the day, we are trying to be satisfied. We are trying to be hopeful. But I would also like to share this other screen with you, share this image with you, is that although we try to become happy, aren't we like this? The carrot on a stick, the famous example. We are chasing our happiness, we are chasing our satisfaction, but we are never fully 100% satisfied. I mentioned all the reasons why you cannot be 100% satisfied right now. If you are 100% satisfied right now, I'm very happy. I want to be happy with you. But ask the question, are you that 100% peaceful so that you can rest in peace at 8:32 p.m. right? So that's the characteristics of happiness today, and we looked at all the different characteristics, and then we looked at why we can't be 100% happy, why we are inhibited. And then next week we are going to look at dissatisfaction and fear. Now that we understood some of the characteristics of happiness, we will get into, I think one day you asked, is there a different way for us to become satisfied? We'll see what are the other available options as well, right? So let's, it's an hour for right now, so we'll officially finish it, and we'll take the next few minutes to have questions, answers, comments. But I want to ask from you, what do you think? Are you 100% happy here on Zoom? Yeah? 100%? Is there anyone who's 100% happy? I would so love to see someone who's 100% happy and satisfied. Now, happiness, the gross happiness, we are a step away from that. We are a step above from that. Satisfaction, or being gratified, or being content. Are you 100% content? Jean? Yeah?
I feel content, but I feel interested in striving for more. And I'm not talking about material things, but experiences and it could be spending time with people I enjoy being with, that sort of thing, and it's not happening right now. So while I feel content right now, it's not a big distress, but I still have that bit of longing.
Right. That's a good
And
point.
it could be for, different things, or maybe I've just had a nice meal, but maybe I would like, something else. I still would like to try something else,
Very
even
good.
though I'm satisfied with what I've had. But next time, maybe I'd like to try that. So there's that bit of longing there. And so I don't know if that if is unhappy, but when there's still a bit of longing, are you fulfilled?
Right. Great point, Jane. In fact, in the Pali Canon, when they talk about the enlightened monks, right, people who have fully liberated, the phrase used there is that they have exhausted all options of happiness and they do not want to do anything else for happiness because they are happy right now. They are fully content. Nothing would yearn or want them to do something uh, for them to become a little bit more happy than what I'm right now. So again, I think what we need to understand is maybe you are not miserable right now, right? But does that mean you're 100% satisfied right now? The easiest way is to have this benchmark. There was this one day in your life where you were very happy, like you were super happy, and that was the happiest day in your life. If you don't have a happiest day in your life, right now should be the happiest, which makes that anything will not be able to make you more happy than what you're right now. But if there's anything which could make you a little more happier than right now, then this is not the 100% content. Suppose that someone knocks on your door and gives you $100 million and say you are free to do any benevolent activity that you want to do with this $100 million. Wouldn't you be a little more happy than right now? You can either use it for your own happiness, or you can even give it to someone, any way you want. You can use this. Wouldn't you be a little bit happy? So which means that we are not 100% happy and satisfied right now. I'm just saying, but you don't need to agree with me. Just think about it. Nihal, what do you think?
Yeah, it's really a very challenging question. So always I think we have happiness. So I ask myself, where is this happiness? Where do I feel this happiness? That is one thing. And I feel that it's something coming internally. I know really because of the five senses, we want to attract certain things. When we receive it, it's that we are happy. But as you always say, and as we all know, it's very temporary. And then when you say 100% happiness, where does it end really? So maybe if it is a certain like a glass, then we know really when you feel water, the glass has a limit. But when it comes to the happiness, is there a limit that we can define? So that's one thing. Is there a limit that I can define? Yeah, this is the level when I call it 100%. Or is this the 100%? Or
Right.
this is 100%. And say it really so loudly. I can say really, I love you so much. I love you so much. I love you so much. And it's something like, I think what we call that uncountable thing for me really happiness means. So there we can, that's why everybody we keep chasing. And I don't know really whether I can be 100% happy. That's my answer.
Very good, very good, very good. Don't worry about it. We will try to figure this image. I hope you can remember what I said in the beginning. We are trying to look at the mechanism of how we can become 100% happy, but that path lies towards trying to understand ourselves. because we are the ones who are creating this happiness, right? So we need to understand the mechanics of our mind, ourselves, right? And in order to do that, we need to be a little non-compulsive, and we need to be a little open-minded, and we need to be not too bothered by dissatisfactions. We need to have that antigen or the antibody to not be so miserable, right? So the next 2 days, what we are going to do is we are going to see how we can become miserable, and what's the best way to not become miserable. Right? We'll look at that, and then we'll have this balance in life first, and then we'll approach this happiness and satisfaction problem. End of the day, we are trying to figure out a way how to become 100% happy or 100% content, right? And you would like it. Of course, any being in this world would like to become 100% content and be peaceful, right? But instead of trying to see how to get it, we will observe why are we not, and what is preventing us from doing that, right? So instead of finding an answer, we are going to look at the problem. Is that correct? Instead of trying to find an answer, we are going to look at what inhibits me or what stops me from being 100% happy. And when you know the problem, knowing the problem itself is the answer. Okay, so I think anyone else has questions, comments?
Yes, I do.
Yes, dear.
This has been a lot to think about. I never thought of happiness this way before. So I'm pretty close to being very, very happy.
Very good.
Because my son's visiting me.
Very good.
So yes, and so I'm going to leave now. And thank you for this, giving us something to think about.
Very good. Very good, dear.
I love the way you express yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Yes.
So adding to Dian's comment, I will tell you something else, that everything I mentioned, you already knew them, right? There's no magic in here. I'm not saying anything new. I'm just pointing out things. So my being here is really to show you yourself, not myself, right? You're not going to learn about the life of Ananda the monk. You're going to learn about yourself. So just take a reflection. Like, we have to sometimes look in hindsight, but we don't have that chance to look in hindsight. So this space, this hour on every Thursday is for you to look back and see how your life has been, how your happiness has been. So it's a reflection, a time of reflection. And the real reflection happens in front of a mirror when you see yourself. I literally meant when you can truly see yourself, your make, then that is the true reflection that you can have. Thinking is not the true reflection. We were meditating a while ago, and continuously I said, this is not a thinking exercise, this is an experiencing exercise. So the true reflection happens when you stop thinking. Okay, so with that, we will end for today on Zoom. Our friends in person can stay a little longer. And I wish you all the best, and I wish you all become 100% happy, and may all attain the supreme bliss of happiness. Take care and good night. Teruvan Saranai.